Hey, what's up guys? BJ Dell back with an all-new weekly art challenge review video. Last week's word was wolf, so let's see what you guys came up with. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and jump into this week's weekly art challenge review video with the word being wolf for this previous week. We've got a few different ones to show you today. First one up is from Jeremy. We've got the wolf in front of this kind of hill background and in front of the moon. And I really like this one just because I always preach and talk about line weight and how important it is to switch up line weight. But in this one, you can see the line weight is very consistent throughout. And I think it kind of works in this situation, especially based on one of my previous videos. I talked about doing the coloring books on KDP. And this is definitely a technique that Jeremy used that you would want to use in KDP. I scale a lot of my designs that I already have done, but once I've got them printed, I really think that these solid, thick lines work the best for coloring books. And to be honest, using something like the iPad that has pressure sensitivity, I personally think getting, a solid line like this that is consistent throughout is really hard, just because, like I said, with the pressure sensitivity, you've got to push the exact same amount every single stroke. So I think that, it kind of takes some practice and getting used to. I think that Jeremy really pulled it off here. I like the dark moon, or the dark sky in the background with the moon in front that kind of frames the wolf. And I like how this hill kind of curves around here. I like the motion that has. So I think it's a really nice job, nice design. And the use of the shadows here works really well. So good job, Jeremy. Thanks for sharing that today. Next up is Jose. And in my previous videos, I've always talked about join the group. We want to see your stuff, even if you are a traditional artist, if you don't do a lot of digital art. And Jose submitted a piece this week that's just pencil and paper, and I think it works really well. It almost has a photorealistic quality to it, and as I zoom in here, just did an absolute fantastic job with the fur, making it super realistic. Love you got kind of the white areas here that give that kind of shine to the parts of the eye there. And I like how it just kind of trails off here rather than going super, hardcore with the lines and doing everything down here to finish it out. I like how it just kind of fades and tapers off, and I think it's a really good design choice. Same thing here, it almost tapers from right to left on this ear and this side, and I just like the technique used, and the pencil work is just fantastic with the fur. Super great job, Jose, so thanks for sharing that. Next up is CK, and CK went with the old wolf in sheep's clothing. So number one, right off the bat, I love kind of the story that it tells. You do get a message from the picture right off the bat. So this could be, in a children's book, and you would of course have some text up here, but to be a good storyteller and to convey an idea to your audience or your reader, having a strong design that does the work for you is kind of the number one thing when doing designs like this. And I think CK did a great job on that. You can tell obviously right off the bat what it is. You've got the nice, zipper here with the hood that comes up, and I think it's really well done. Very cute wolf design, and I like the eyes up here for the sheep hood. It's very, very cool. One thing I've talked about before in the previous videos too is backgrounds. And the one thing here that I would do, I usually try to keep the foreground a lighter color than the background, especially if you're using the exact same hue of color. So here we've got, a darker green and then a lighter green for this background and the hills. So I would have actually switched and swapped those, have this lighter color in the foreground and have the darker in the background. And then also up here, I love the addition of the sheep kind of in the background, but they honestly look a little bit like they're floating just because there's nothing really around them that it makes it look like they're standing on. So for that, I would have either added in, let's see here, move this up. I would have added in some, shadows here maybe for the sheep, keeping the direction of the shadows, the same way that the light source is on the wolf down here. So maybe putting some shadows in like that. Or the other thing that you could do too is if you just stretch this grass over maybe on top and kind of put some little hills here, or even if you just went and did some extra, kind of blades of grass like this and just added in just a little bit extra so it looks like, you know, they're actually standing on the hill than just kind of floating in front of it. Between these two, I kind of like the shadows over here. It definitely gives the illusion that they're standing on something rather than just kind of floating in front of that hill there. But other than that, I think it's an absolutely fantastic job. So thanks for sharing that this week, CK. Next up is Don, and Don has a very dapper looking wolf. This one, I just love the character design of it. I love the jacket, the hat, the flipping of the coin is nice, and the expression too is really, really good. From a character design standpoint, I think it works really well. I like the pinstripes in the suit too. It adds just that little bit of extra flair to it. And I know Don posted actually 2 of these. He did one with a regular tie with a Windsor knot, and then also did one with this bow tie. And I just went ahead and selected this one with the bow tie, but I just love the expression, and everything else is really well done. Same thing with the shadows. Everything looks really good on there. You've got the light source coming in from this direction, so the shadows fall down over here, and I think it's really, really good. The one thing I would have done, I'm not a big fan of the green here in the back, and I think I've talked about this in some other videos, and I plan on doing a video all about color theory, but the one thing I would have done here is changed out this color with a complementary color. So basically, you've got such a bright color for the suit and the hat. I would make that basically the main focus color. And then if you go up here to the color wheel, a complementary color is basically going to make it pop the most, and it's going to have the most contrast. So now that we've got the yellow here, if we go straight down and across down to here, that's where your complementary color is going to be. So it's going to be this purple, and then you can kind of play around with you know, the actual color of purple that you get, the hue of it. You can go a little bit lighter. It doesn't have to be exact, but that hue across there is going to be the complementary color and provide the most contrast. So it's going to make that pop just a little bit more, and just play around with the colors. And you can go, you know, off to the side and choose a little bit a different color, but as long as you've got that to make it pop. I think the green just blends in a little bit too much. I know it's not a true complementary color, but I would even almost pull up a little bit more here into this orangish. That might make it pop a little bit more. It is definitely, you know, across from here, so it's going to have more contrast. The green here is actually right next to the yellow, so that's going to provide actually the least bit of contrast that you have. So I would probably, you know, choose something like that that's a little bit more direct opposite of it. Either that purple or that orange would work. So fantastic job, Don. Thanks for sharing that today. And next up is Keith, and Keith knocked out a very 8-bit wolf. I love this. I love, you know, classic video games and the art that goes along with them, and I think this one is really well done. You've got a very classic wolf style here, howling at the moon, and I think the layout of everything is really well done. I like the positioning of the wolf. Not totally centered, a little bit off to the left. Same thing with the moon. Not totally centered, a little bit off to the right. And I think it's got a good balance. And I like the way that the mountains here come up. Same thing with CK's. I probably would have switched out the colors here. So you've got basically these silhouetted mountains against the sky. And the silhouettes of the mountains, of course, are going to be further in the distance than this foreground. And you've got the foreground color actually darker than the mountains here in the back. So I would switch those around. You might have to play around with the colors even more though, because this one is going to be so dark against that dark blue midnight sky background. It might not pop that well, so you might have to lighten this up or you know, pick another color here. But I would always try to keep that dark color in the background. So those are our 5 submissions that I picked for this week's word, wolf. Alright guys, that's it for today's video. As always, thank you for watching, and thanks to all the people that submitted designs this week. Love seeing your stuff as always. If you have not yet joined, hop on over to Facebook after this video. Keep creating a Learn, Draw, Share art community. The link is in the description below. That's where you share your designs based on these prompts. But it doesn't stop there. You can share any art that you create, and it doesn't have to be digital. It can be traditional. We just want to see what you guys are doing and want you to join in on the fun. So last week's word was wolf, and this week's word is Greek mythology. So let's see what you guys can do. That's a pretty broad topic, and there's a lot of different subjects that can be covered. So I am looking forward to this one and seeing what you guys come up with. As for me, I can be found online, bjdell.com, as well as on Instagram and Twitter at bjdell. So until next time, keep creating.